So tonight, I was just wanting us to look at an example that Jesus set for us. We'll be in the example of service. That's what I was thinking of. We'll be in Mark chapter 10, looking at verses 35 through 45. Again, this is going to be him having an exchange with the disciples, and it's something I'm sure everyone's very familiar with, but just want us to jump to the end and kind of start at the end. Mark chapter 10, verse 45. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. So Jesus tells us, this is his example that we need to follow. A life of service is the Christian life. And too many times we get caught up, maybe in competition or wanting to be above others and have authority over others, that type of thing. And that's what was going on here with the disciples. Let's go ahead and look and see how this got started. If we look at verses 35 through 37, Mark chapter 10, then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him saying, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. And he said to them, What do you want me to do for you? They said to him, Grant us that we may sit one on your right hand and the other on your left in your glory. Now I want you to notice first how they asked the question there. I'm always a little suspicious when someone asks for a favor and doesn't tell me what the favor is. That's just me. It's like, no. So try to follow Jesus' example here. He made them, and he knew their hearts. He knew what they were going to ask, but he made them specifically say, what is it? What is it that you want? So I just thought that was an interesting point to notice. He wasn't going to agree to something without it being spoken. And since we can't read hearts, we need to really make sure we know what we're agreeing to ahead of time. So just one of those things. But there's a couple of things that this request tells us about James and John. Now, it tells us that they were ambitious. They wanted an important place in his kingdom. I understand there's also some push from their mother on this, but that's another part of the story. But they were ambitious and they wanted this authority, right? But the second thing it tells us is that they completely misunderstood Jesus and his purpose. But that's okay. That was probably true of all the disciples. They didn't really understand that Jesus wasn't going to set up an earthly kingdom. But the third thing that it tells us about them is that they stayed with Jesus and believed in Jesus even when they didn't get the answer they wanted. So I think that's an important thing for us to notice as an example for us. And that says something good about them. So let's see Jesus' response to them, though. But Jesus said to them, this is in 38 through 40, but Jesus said to them, You do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They said to him, We are able. So Jesus said to them, You will indeed drink the cup that I drink, and with the baptism I am baptized with, you will be baptized. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared. So we might notice the first thing Jesus said to them is, you don't know what you're asking. You don't know what you're talking about, right? He's not being mean. He's just stating a fact. They did not realize what they were asking for. But Jesus here he's talking about the cup he's going to drink. He's preparing to drink the cup of God's wrath for all of us. He's preparing to face the ultimate persecution and go to the cross and die for all of us. So Jesus also did acknowledge, you'll notice after they said they were able, he did acknowledge that they would suffer persecution like he did. But I don't think they really understood it at that time, according to the other things we know. But anyway, Jesus tells them he can't give them what they want because he's following God's plan. God's plan is already set. These things have already, they were not his to give to them. He's not going to try to change God's plan. He's following God's plan. So then we want to look at how the other disciples reacted. It's a very short verse right here. And when the 10 heard it, they began to be greatly displeased with James and John. They're mad. They're mad. They're probably having some heated words, giving the brothers a hard time. Maybe some names came out. I don't know. But they're offended. And maybe rightly so. I mean, that is kind of offensive, I guess, to the rest of the crowd if you do something like that. It seems kind of selfish and ambitious to want to, rule over all the others. But let's see how Jesus handles this upset in their group. But Jesus called them to himself and said to them, "You know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many." So Jesus recognizes this issue with this ambition, I will just call it selfish ambition. The brothers wanted to be over the others. They wanted to be in a higher position. But Jesus tells us what our desire should be: to serve others. We should be willing to live that life of service. Our desire should not so much want to be to rule over others as to serve them and help them. And the greatest leaders, if you look, the greatest leaders have always taken care of their people, serving the people that they're leading. Moses is a great example of this. Not perfect, but he definitely was one of their great leaders that took care of his people. And you could say David is one too, but David at least got to live like a king, right? Moses didn't get to live like a king. He didn't even get to go to the promised land. So for him, I think he's a little better example. Jesus, of course, is the perfect leader, the perfect example of leadership and service to his people. So we may not be perfect, but we can definitely follow his example. And we should have his humble attitude toward being a servant to all. So when we serve people, we're really fulfilling our purpose in Christ, because we're serving the Lord by serving people to bring people to Christ so that they can be saved. And I hope this is just a helpful reminder to us here this evening. We don't need to satisfy necessarily our ambition for positions or titles, but instead we should seek to serve like the Lord. So, and this evening, if anyone has any need this evening, if you had a need to be baptized, or if you need anything else that we could help you with, we are here to serve you this evening. So if anyone does have anything you need help with, please come forward as we stand and sing.